Hi everyone. 2666 by the Chilean author Roberto Bolaño is considered one of the most important novels by New York Times when it was published. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the author, summarize the novel, then tell you what it's about, its strengths and weaknesses. I'll also tell you my answer to solve the mystery of the title. Nobody knows the meaning of the title, the number 2666, but I think I have found a solid answer, so stick around. First, let me tell you about the country. I fell in love with the Chilean football or soccer team some 10 years ago for their dynamic and relentless football. As we will see, this novel is a little bit relentless as well. Despite its name, Chile is pretty warm in some areas. Its biggest rival is Peru, as they seem to have all the history and tourists. You might be surprised that Chileans don't exactly know why the country is named Chile and what it means. Well, the Spanish conquistadors wiped out all the Incas, so nobody left to tell what it meant. Some say Chile means where the world ends, geographically speaking, but in reality it did end for the Incas. Just like the title of this novel, the name Chile is still a mystery. The population is about 17 million people and they speak Spanish with German accent. The driest place on earth is Atacama Desert in Chile. Chile is also a wine country and the country of poets. Pablo Neruda and Gabriel Mistral, both Nobel Prize-winning poets from Chile. It's also a tall and very thin country sandwiched between the Andes Mountains on the one side and the Pacific Ocean on the other side. Now let me talk about the author. Roberto Bolaño was born in Chile in 1953 and died in 2003 at the exact age of 50, and he spent most of his life abroad in Mexico and Spain. He wasn't a big fan of magic realism like other South Americans. He was dyslexic, so he had a tough time in school. He apparently enjoyed heroin and politically leaned to the left like most South American authors. There's a legend that he enjoyed being the only Chilean in social events, so he avoided parties with other Chileans. He was a sensitive man and very easily offended, so I need to be very careful in this video. Now, back to the novel. 2666 deals with two mysteries. At the beginning, you are introduced to four academics from four different countries in Europe searching for a mythical German author with an Italian name, Archimboldi. Later, you learn that there's a second mystery in the novel, the search for a serial killer or killers in Mexico who may have murdered hundreds of women. And this part is actually based on real murders that took place in Mexican town Juarez in the 90s. As you read, the narrative digresses here and there, ends up telling the story of those people who are on the search for these two mysteries. This makes the novel very slow, but at the same time you get to know the people involved on a deeper level. The story is told in 5 acts or 5 separate novels, like nested Russian dolls. Each section deals with a different set of people, but all connected around a crime-ridden town in Mexico. Part 1 tells you about 4 critics from 4 different European countries search for the mysterious German author. This part also deals with these 4 people's romantic relationships and some deep life issues. Part 2 tells the story of Amalfitano, a Chilean professor, the closest this book comes to be about Chile, who lives in Mexican town Santa Teresa, where all the murders and rapes take place. And he's worried about his younger daughter, Rosa, that she might become a victim. Part 3 tells the story of an African-American journalist, Fate, who travels to Santa Teresa to cover a boxing match. But he meets Amalfitano and Rosa and learns about the murders and the main suspect, a German man called Klaus Hoss. But the killing continues despite him being in prison. Part 4 is mostly about the 112 female murder victims scattered in the Mexican desert, with the gruesome details and the Mexican police not doing much, sitting pretty like the Moais of Eastern Islands. This is the most difficult part to read as Bolaño doesn't flinch in telling every horrible details. Part 5, or the final part, reveals and tells the story of the German author, Archimboldi, who fought in the Second World War and found a notebook by some Russian author. We are told that he has a family link with the main suspect of the murders in Mexico, but here the novel suddenly stops. Nothing is resolved. I think Bolaño died before he could finish the story and properly edit it. The novel takes you to most of Europe, North and Central America, and with some short detours in Asia and South America. By contrasting the search for an author and the search for murderers, Bolaño invites us to compare the idyllic lives of book critics or readers with those who are trying to solve murders. This is an attempt to blur the lines between fiction, the search for an author, and reality, the search for murderers. I think the main theme of this novel is how terrible humans are. Let's pretend no more. Civilized or uncivilized, we are just animals. The banality of evil, femicide, genocide, racism, sexism, you name it. This novel has all. Even the peaceful academics at some point start kicking a cab driver to death in London and enjoy sex marathons. There's a sense of emptiness in modern life, filled with sex, murders, pointless quests. To prove that we are all terrible, either through our action or inaction, the author tests us by carefully chronicling 112 murders described in gruesome details. And as a reader, you feel numb by the end. Bolaño is on to us. As a reader, you can take a few murders described to you. You feel something. But after 112 of them, they become numbers, stats, repetitive things. Only different color clothes, different parts of their body mutilated. But in reality, they all look the same. I think Bolaño is trying to tell us that in reality, when we read about murders, we don't really distinguish between fiction and reality. Discarded bodies of girls in the desert and discarded bodies of characters in the novel. Like they appear and then they're abandoned and forgotten. Nobody's good. It includes the reader. Sex, death, pleasure all appear in this novel as events without making a moral judgment. The novel appears quite nihilistic when it comes to human nature. I think the writing is quite interesting. The novel is written in a very neutral, objective voice. The language is mostly simple and factual rather than poetic or lyrical. I didn't know Bolaño was a poet before reading it, and you wouldn't see poetry or lyricism in most of the novel. It's raw and honest, told with no emotions. There are too many shocking details. Especially the section about the murders reads like a collection of legal cases or court documents. It hides nothing, so this part can be upsetting, but at the same time quite mundane as it lists 112 female victims. You might say that author is a bit sadistic by telling us all about these murders, perhaps an attempt to torture the reader. But as readers, we don't do anything. We sit down and read books. The novel suggests that readers are interested in the author and the story. In 2666, Bolaño refuses to tell us a story. There is no plot. There is no resolution. Instead, he wants you to feel numb, torture you. He wants you to understand that there is nothing good about anyone anymore. As a reader, you want to know who the author really is, but the novel says it's impossible to know the real author. Authors and readers remain forever apart. This novel tells the story of two authors, the one in the novel and the one who wrote the novel. Bolaño didn't finish the story. He combined 5 novels together in a patchwork sort of way. He gave us no heroes, all villains, even the reader. There is a disdain for the reader in this novel, you can feel it. Even the critics or avid readers, the so-called fans of this German author, are a bunch of thugs and racists. It's a very long novel, more like 5 novels stitched together, and ends very abruptly. Since it was published after Bolaño's death, I don't know if it was properly edited. If it was up to me, I would condense it to 300 pages and cut the 600 pages out of it. There are too many unnecessary details. It lacks focus and characters appear and disappear. At some point, you start missing the early characters in the book, wondering what is happening to them in Europe or while you're in Mexico or US. And it's also a bit confusing. And the entire novel treats women as very weak and victims. In part 1, there's an English female academic, Liz Norton. But when the 2 friends or 2 thugs, 2 fellow academics she sleeps with, attacks a cab driver, she does nothing to stop them. I think Bolaño, by writing 2666, tried to question the rules of novel writings, but he failed. If you want to be different, break rules by not having a protagonist, focus, or resolution at the end. But unfortunately, it doesn't connect and misses the target by a long shot, almost 900 pages. This begs the question, why did I spend hours reading 900 pages of a story? I guess Bolaño is telling us that it's all about the journey, not the destination. I have to be honest, I only enjoyed the beginning, about the critics, and then the last part about the author lost in Russia. But the rest I had to force myself like a child pushed to finish his homework. If you have a busy life, I don't recommend you reading this novel. But if you enjoy long novels and have the stomach for some upsetting stories of murders and rapes, be my guest. For me, the biggest disappointment wasn't the lack of clear plot, it was the lack of editing. Now, as promised, let me tell you what I think the title means. People have suggested all sorts of theories. Some say it refers to the year 2666 in the Bible, the Exodus from Egypt. Others say it's a joke by the author or a prediction for an apocalypse in the future. But I think none of them are very viable. Now here's my answer. As I was preparing for this video, I wanted to know a few facts about Chile, Bolaño's home country. The one thing everyone knows about Chile is that it's a very narrowly long country. You know how long? Well, about 4,200 kilometers, which is exactly 2,666 miles. You can't make this thing up. So there you go. At least one mystery is solved in this novel because the other mysteries remain unresolved. Next week, I will be in Peru, Chile's fiercest rival in South America. So tune in as I talk about another great novel from South America. Here's my question. Have you read this book? What do you think about it? And what do you think about my review? And please let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, please consider subscribing, sharing, and commenting. Let me know what you think. I'm on a journey to read books and stories from every country on earth. Please make suggestions for books from your country or any other countries you have read. Thank you and happy reading.